Chosen one, there are no accidents in this moment. This, right now, is not just another part of your day. This is the instant you were being quietly led toward, even when you didn't know it. And now, everything changes. Not because you asked, not because you begged, but because the divine finally decided it is time. You have been walking with questions in your heart that no one else could hear. You have endured seasons of silence that made you wonder if heaven had forgotten your name. And still, you kept going. You stayed soft, you stayed faithful, and that is exactly why you are here. You've seen others rise while you were hidden. You've watched doors open for those who never fought as hard as you did. But what they had was timing. What you have is appointment. There is a difference. This isn't about being lucky. This is about being assigned. The voice you're hearing right now, it is not meant to entertain you. It is meant to activate something ancient inside of you. Because the truth is, your life hasn't been random. It's been mapped, carefully, intentionally, designed for this precise moment to collide with your soul. Let me tell you what they never could. The delays were not punishment. The silence was not abandonment. The detours were never meant to stop you. They were shaping you. You weren't forgotten. You were being refined. And now, heaven speaks again. There are forces you've never seen, whispering your name across dimensions, and they know you. Not the version of you the world tried to shrink. Not the version you performed to survive, but the one you've always been underneath the noise. That soul has waited long enough. The shift isn't coming. It's already started, and it started the moment you chose not to give up, when it made the least sense to keep going. Your silence didn't go unnoticed. Your prayers didn't vanish, they landed. And now the divine is responding, not just with a yes, but with a revelation. You are not simply being blessed, you are being unveiled. Everything you went through was never just to toughen you. It was to prepare you, not for a reward, but for a role, the role of a vessel, a carrier of change, a bringer of light where darkness had claimed ownership. And now that the light within you has been lit again, there's no turning it off. So listen, really listen. You've been asking, when is it going to happen for me? And this is the answer you weren't supposed to get yet. But because you remained faithful in the waiting, because you trusted even when your heart was shattered, God has declared, reveal it to them. Have you ever looked back and realized that the pain didn't come to end you, but to shape you? What was meant to silence you only trained your voice. What was meant to bury you only taught you how to rise. You're not broken, you're becoming. If your spirit knows this to be true, write in the comments, my scars are not shame, they're evidence, and type 77 to seal this moment of clarity. Then subscribe, not for inspiration, but for reminders that your survival was never pointless. It was preparation. Now so here it is. Your life is about to unfold in ways that will humble you. Not because you did everything right, but because you stayed open in a world that demanded you close. You've carried more than people know. You've stood in storms that tried to drown your spirit. And somehow, without anyone noticing, you didn't sink, you stood quietly, powerfully. And now heaven is saying, let the quiet ones rise. There's something sacred about being hidden, but there's something divine about being revealed. And you, chosen one, are about to be revealed. No, not as perfect, not as polished, but as prepared. Because this moment, this exact moment, was set aside just for you. Do you feel that? That stirring in your spirit isn't just emotion, it's recognition. Your soul remembers this sound, it remembers this frequency, because it has heard it before you ever arrived on this earth. There are memories in you that haven't been triggered until now. Codes that hadn't been activated until this moment. You've been waiting for something to begin, but it already did. The evidence is subtle, the timing is exact, the call is undeniable, and now you don't just get to watch others walk in their calling. You don't just get to cheer from the sidelines. You have been summoned, and you are not allowed to miss your own anointing. This is not a coincidence. This is a divine appointment, one that was set before time itself began, and you are right on schedule. Do not let doubt speak louder than destiny, because what's coming for you has already been spoken over you. Before betrayal, before heartbreak, before rejection, before delay, what is ahead is not a surprise to heaven. It is a response to your obedience. I want you to look at your life, not just the joy, but the ache. Not just the victories, but the nights you wanted to give up, because all of it, yes, all of it, has brought you here. The disappointment didn't disqualify you, the confusion didn't cancel you. In fact, it qualified you in ways you didn't realize. You became what others couldn't fake, real in your brokenness, real in your endurance, real in your private surrender, and heaven honors the real ones. So this is where we begin. Not with fireworks, not with crowds, but with quiet fire. The kind of fire that doesn't just burn things down. It burns things open. Chosen one, it's time to open. Open your ears to what is already being said in the unseen. Open your heart to what you thought you'd never hear. Open your mind to the truth that it's not too late, and open your spirit to the moment that was always meant to be yours. This is not the beginning of your story. This is the turning point, the pivot, the hour when everything that once made you question your worth becomes the reason you were chosen. Let the world call it coincidence, but you'll know. This was divine. Chosen one, there's a reason you never quite fit into the mold others expected you to fill. There's a reason every time you tried to follow the crowd, something in you pulled back, because your path was never meant to match the patterns of this world. You weren't made to blend in. You were formed to break the pattern. While others sought acceptance, you were being prepared in silence. While the world chased applause, you were being taught how to listen to the still voice. That voice wasn't in the thunder. It wasn't in the crowd. It was in the pause, the waiting, the ache. And now that voice says, step forward. You've been asking, why has it taken so long? But the truth is, it hasn't taken long. It has taken exactly as long as it needed to. Because what you're stepping into is not small. It carries the weight of generations. It carries the echoes of prayers you didn't even know you were fulfilling. Chosen one, your life is not just your own. It's a thread in a larger divine tapestry. And now that thread begins to glow. You are not stepping into a moment. You are stepping into a season of unlocking, of clarity, of divine motion. But to move forward, you must understand what has held you back. Let's name it. The fear, the doubt, the questioning of your own worth. These were not flaws. They were tools. They were allowed to exist, not to stop you, but to sharpen your discernment. You had to learn what wasn't yours, so you could recognize what was. And now, every voice that tried to silence you, they become background noise. Every label placed upon you by those who didn't understand, they fall off like old skin, because heaven never needed you to be understood. It needed you to be ready, and you are. Your gifts, yes, the ones you hid, they're not accidents, they're assignments. The dreams that refuse to die inside you, they are not random, they are blueprints. And the ache you felt in your chest, that pressure that keeps coming back, it's not anxiety, it's activation. Your spirit knows. It knows the hour is here. It knows the delay is over. It knows what your mind is only beginning to understand. And now the heavens are clearing the path. But don't expect it to look like what others experience. You weren't called to normal. You weren't called to easy. You were called to destiny. So don't be surprised if the path still feels unfamiliar. It's supposed to, because it wasn't made by human hands. It was carved by grace, and grace doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes grace looks like things falling apart, because they were built on what was never real. Sometimes grace looks like being alone, because no one else could carry this light with you. Not yet. Chosen one, your solitude wasn't punishment. It was a sacred shelter, a place where heaven whispered the secrets of your calling so the noise of the world wouldn't drown them out. That's why so few understood your process. It wasn't meant for public display, but now it's being made visible, not for attention, not for pride, but because it's time. Time for those who dismissed you to watch what heaven does when someone refuses to quit. Time for every tear to return as harvest. Time for every hidden seed to break open. Time for your name to be called in rooms you haven't entered yet, and no one can stop it. Because God already said, go. But listen carefully, this isn't just about personal breakthrough. This is about alignment. This is about being positioned so your life becomes a lighthouse for others. You don't just carry answers for yourself. You carry keys for others still locked in their waiting. You will be the confirmation someone else has been praying for. You will be the sign someone else begged heaven to send. But to do that, you must first accept it. Accept the mantle, accept the calling, accept that it's you. Yes, you, not someone stronger, not someone louder. You with the questions, you with the wounds. You with the quiet strength forged in silence. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to delay. This is the time to receive. Receive the truth that your past didn't disqualify you. It qualified you, because no one who hasn't bled in secret can carry this kind of light in public. And now that you've been broken, you can be trusted. Now that you've been emptied, you can be filled. Now that you've been tested, you can be launched. This is sacred ground. And the steps you take from here are not random, they are divine. So what do you do now? You align. You stop resisting what your soul already knows. You let go of who you thought you had to be. You shed the weight of roles you were never meant to carry. You stop asking permission to be what God already appointed. And you start walking as though the way has already been made, because it has. Heaven moves for the bold, not the loud, not the proud, but the surrendered. And that's what you are now, surrendered and ready. Chosen one. There comes a moment in every sacred journey when the veil begins to lift. Not all at once, not with lightning or fanfare, but slowly, deliberately, so that your spirit can absorb what your mind is only beginning to grasp. You are entering that moment now. The signs you dismissed as coincidence. The quiet urges you ignored. The persistent pull that refused to let you rest. They were not distractions. They were directions, and now heaven confirms it. You were never lost. You were being led. You see, when God hides you, it's not because you aren't ready. It's because the world isn't. There's a weight to your purpose that requires timing. Premature exposure would have only distorted what heaven designed to flourish. But now, the covering is being lifted, not to expose you, but to reveal you. There's a difference. Exposure seeks applause. Revelation seeks alignment. And this is your revelation hour. Look at your life through new eyes. Not the lens of pain, not through the fractures of disappointment, but through the lens of divine formation. Every relationship that broke, every room you were pushed out of, every silence that echoed in your prayers, they were not rejections. They were recalibrations. The divine was not trying to destroy your confidence. It was dismantling everything that would have diluted your clarity. Because clarity, chosen one, is dangerous. To those who live in confusion, to those who benefit from your uncertainty. But you're not confused anymore. You're not second-guessing your existence. You're aware, and awareness is your gateway. There is no returning to who you were before this awakening, and that's not a threat. It's a promise. You've already outgrown the mask. You've already surpassed the shell. Now you are stepping into form, the divine blueprint, the original design, not what they told you to be, not what you became to survive, but who you are, unfiltered, unafraid, undeniable. You've been walking quietly, But the earth has felt your footsteps, heaven has counted every tear, and now the echo of your endurance has reached the throne. The response? Release. Release of what no longer fits. Release of roles you were never meant to wear. Release of heaviness that didn't belong to your story. Chosen one, you're not here to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. You're here to move with the weight of God's presence. And that presence is no longer subtle. It's moving things, shifting rooms, altering atmospheres, not for attention, but for activation. There are rooms being prepared for your entrance, conversations happening in spaces your feet haven't touched yet, but your name has, because what's on your life speaks, even when you remain silent. This is why the silence was so long. Not because heaven was withholding, but because it was building. Had you stepped into this moment a year ago, you wouldn't have believed it. You would have dismissed the door as too big, the opportunity as too far-fetched, the anointing as too heavy. But now you know that the power on your life isn't hype, it's not luck, it's not chance, it's appointment. Heaven waited for this version of you, the one that's been tried, tested, tempered, and now released. But don't think for a second that release means ease. No, chosen one, it means clarity. It means that from this point forward, your yes carries weight, your decisions shape futures, your silence shakes realms. That is why this moment is so sacred, because you are not walking in favor for personal gain. You're walking in authority for kingdom purpose, and with that authority comes accountability, to stay aligned, to stay humble, to stay available. Because the moment you begin to question whether you're worthy, remember who appointed you. It wasn't man. It wasn't public opinion. It wasn't popularity. It was God. So if you're wondering, am I really ready for this? Yes, but not because you feel it, because God says so. And when heaven speaks, it is not seeking agreement. It is releasing assignment. This assignment may scare you, it may stretch you, it may strip away comfort, but it will also awaken the part of you that has been asleep for far too long. And when that part of you rises, you will never again settle for ordinary. So let this be your confirmation. Let this be your alignment. Everything that was once cloudy is clearing. Every question that haunted you is dissolving. Every step forward is now charged with divine backing. You are not guessing anymore. You are moving, not with fear, not with doubt, but with certainty, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't prove, the kind that knows. Because once heaven says your name, nothing can remain the same. And heaven just said your name. Chosen one. There's something different now, not just around you, but in you. You may not have the words for it yet, but you feel it. The atmosphere is familiar, but the way you respond to it is not. That's how you know the shift has taken root. Not in what has changed around you, but in what can no longer stay the same within you. You can't go back, not because someone told you not to, but because your soul simply won't let you. What once felt safe now feels shallow. What once comforted you now confines you. This isn't confusion, this is clarity. Your heart has aligned with something eternal. And once you taste that kind of alignment, you lose the appetite for artificial belonging. You used to question your place, now you recognize your path. But this new clarity carries responsibility. You're not just here to feel enlightened, you're here to walk different. To speak different, to decide with intention, to move with meaning. And yes, you will be misunderstood. Yes, you may be called intense, too serious, too distant. But what they call distance is actually depth. You no longer entertain what distracts. You no longer engage what dilutes your discernment. You've been called up, not for separation, but for sacred use. And with that call comes shedding. There are things you'll have to leave behind, not out of bitterness, but out of obedience. The version of you that tolerated misalignment, that version has completed its assignment. You are not broken. You are breaking through, and what's breaking is not you. It's the shell that once hid your brilliance. It's the old voice that said, stay small. It's the agreement you made with survival that now feels too tight for the life you're being called to carry. Chosen one, this is where new language begins, where you stop calling fear wisdom, where you stop naming delay as peace, where you stop confusing stillness with stagnation. Now you know what it feels like to be heavy with purpose, to be pregnant with assignment, to be quiet, not from fear, but from sacred focus. You're not avoiding life, you're building something eternal, and heaven is watching how you hold it. That's why everything has intensified, because the cost of your calling is clarity, and clarity requires courage. You're being asked to choose what your future needs, not what your past prefers. You're being asked to protect what has no language yet, but burns in your bones like fire. You are becoming, and the becoming is irreversible. Not everyone will understand, but heaven does, and that's enough. Chosen one, you've carried much in silence, but you were never meant to carry it all alone. Even when no one saw your burden, even when no one stepped in to help, you were surrounded, not always by people, but by presence. There were moments you thought no one stood with you, but if the veil had lifted then, you would have seen the angel standing guard, the Spirit whispering strength, the hand of the divine steadying your every trembling step. You were never abandoned. You were anchored. There is a difference between being isolated and being insulated. The isolation you felt wasn't rejection, it was protection. Heaven couldn't risk your light being dimmed by voices not tuned to your calling, so it withdrew the noise, not to punish you, but to preserve you. Because chosen one, there are mantles on your life that couldn't be birthed in crowds. There are anointings that only awaken in the quiet. You wanted connection, but heaven gave you consecration, and now it gives you company. You are about to recognize people who were placed around you by design, not by chance, not by accident, but by divine assignment. They may not look like what you expected, they may not speak like you or think like you, but they are aligned. Because heaven doesn't build teams the way the world does, it builds alliances. Soul level, connections tied together by purpose, not personality. These souls are arriving now. Some have already crossed your path, but their role in your life is about to deepen. They've been waiting for your activation, and now that you've answered the call, they are being drawn to you. Do not fear their entrance. Do not resist the help, because what you're called to carry requires more than your own strength. This next chapter is not about proving your independence. It's about embracing interdependence. You are not being called to stand above. You are being called to stand among the ones who see you, who recognize the weight you carry, and are equipped to walk beside you. Not to take the weight from you, but to help lift it. And you, chosen one, you will do the same for them. Because what you carry is not just power, it is permission. You give others permission to rise by the way you refuse to fall. You teach others how to endure by the way you carry grace through your process. Your life is a signal, a message, a demonstration of what happens when someone remains faithful in the unseen. You are not just a witness to transformation, you are becoming the proof of it. So don't be surprised when others begin to come to you with questions they've never asked out loud. Don't be alarmed when people start confessing things to you they've never admitted to anyone. It's not because you have all the answers, it's because your presence feels like truth, and truth draws truth. This is what happens when the veil lifts. You stop performing, you start living, you stop rehearsing, you start revealing, not perfection, but presence. Your presence becomes a portal, not to who you pretend to be, but to who you truly are. And that version of you, the authentic, surrendered, seen version, is magnetic. Not because you try to be, but because the divine in you is undeniable. This is why everything had to happen the way it did. The silence, the losses, the misunderstood seasons, because you had to become before you could build. Now you are building, not a platform, not a brand, but a life, rooted in truth, watered by faith, and anchored in purpose. And that life is beginning to bloom. You may not see all the petals yet, but the roots have been growing for years, and now the world will start to notice the harvest you've been cultivating in the dark. But be warned, with visibility comes responsibility. You are no longer invisible. You are illumined, and light carries weight, not the weight of performance but of purpose. This is not a spotlight, this is a torch, and torches were made to be carried through valleys into caves across night seasons, so others can follow. This is why your journey matters. Not just because of where it's taking you, but because of who it will awaken through you. There are people tied to your obedience. There are destinies tethered to your surrender. Every yes you give echoes beyond your own life. It becomes a path for someone else. And when you see that, you stop hesitating. You stop minimizing your role because you realize this is bigger than you. And that realization is holy. So, chosen one, walk boldly, not because the way is easy, but because the way is ordained. Let those who are meant to walk with you find you in your truth, in your peace, in your purpose. Let your presence give others permission to stop hiding, to stop performing, to finally live, because you didn't survive all you've survived just to sit quietly in the back. You survived to lead, you rose to guide, and heaven is watching you take your place. Chosen one, the waiting is over, not because the world said so, but because heaven did. There is a sound in the spirit, quiet but undeniable, and it's moving in your direction. It doesn't ask for attention, it commands alignment, and now you stand at the threshold, the line between preparation and purpose. You cannot go back, because back no longer fits. You have been stretched, pulled, shaken, reshaped, and the shape you now carry cannot be hidden. It cannot be ignored, because it was carved by fire. You didn't ask for the fire, you didn't pray for the wilderness, but you endured it. And now that endurance speaks louder than any credential, louder than any title, louder than any applause, because heaven listens to obedience. Not performance, not perfection, just obedience, and that's what you've offered, even when you didn't understand, even when it hurt, even when the silence echoed louder than the promise. You still stayed, you still stood. And that stand shifted things in realms you couldn't see. Chosen one, your faith has moved mountains you didn't even know were in your way. The breakthroughs others are about to witness are not just the result of favor, they are the fruit of faithfulness. The kind that stayed planted when the soil felt dry. The kind that praised in pain. The kind that whispered yes when everything in you wanted to run. And now heaven answers, not with noise, but with motion. Doors are unlocking, pathways are clearing, winds are shifting. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. Let this truth settle deep in your spirit. What you are stepping into was always meant for you, but it required the version of you that could hold it. The healed version, the refined version, the version forged in the silent places, and now that version stands ready. Ready not because of qualifications, but because of transformation. You've been transformed in private so you can be trusted in public. You've been trained in isolation so you can lead in revelation. And now you will walk in demonstration. But hear this. This walk requires action. Not striving, not proving, not pleasing, but responding. Responding to the call. Responding to the inner nudge. Responding to what your soul already knows to be true. You do not need another sign. You do not need another confirmation. This moment is the confirmation. This voice, These words, this weight in your chest, they are the sign you've been asking for. You are not waiting for breakthrough. You are walking into it. This is your instruction. Move. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if your steps are slow, move anyway. Because the anointing on your life is not passive, it is active, and heaven is waiting for you to take the first step, so it can multiply your motion. It won't all make sense, it won't all feel certain, but it will be divine, and that's all it needs to be. You see, chosen one, heaven does not wait for the perfect moment. It creates the moment through faith, and that faith is now alive in you. This is why doors will open without explanation. This is why strangers will feel like soul connections. This is why provision will show up exactly when you need it. Because this is no longer a guessing game. This is divine execution. You are no longer hoping. You are harvesting. You are no longer surviving. You are sowing into generations, and heaven is watching you build what others only dreamed of. But building is not easy. It requires consistency, it requires discipline, it requires surrender. Surrendering not just your fears, but your timing, your methods, your expectations. Let them go. Let go of the way you thought it had to happen, because what God is doing does not need your plan. It only needs your participation, and participation looks like trust. Radical, unwavering, inconvenient trust. So when fear speaks, respond with faith. When delay tries to whisper, not yet, respond with now. When doubt creeps in quietly, respond with declaration. Because this is your assignment, and your assignment doesn't wait for comfort. It moves with conviction. You've been equipped, you've been called, you've been marked, and now you're being released. And in that release, others will rise. They will see you stand and remember their own strength. They will see you move and realize they were never stuck. You are a key, a doorway, a living, breathing answer to someone else's prayer. So walk like it, speak like it, live like it, because heaven trusted you with this fire. Not to burn you, but to burn through you. You are the spark, and the world is waiting. Chosen one. This is it. The moment everything you've endured, everything you've questioned, everything you've carried, finds its voice. Not a loud one, not an external celebration, but a deep, resounding silence that feels like truth. You are no longer in waiting, you are in becoming, and what you're becoming was always inside of you. The world didn't give you this, so the world can't take it from you. There is a difference between arrival and awakening. Arrival waits for permission. Awakening moves regardless. And you are no longer waiting. You are walking in what was already written. This moment doesn't make you chosen. It reveals that you always were. Chosen before time began, marked before your first breath, protected when no one knew your name. You didn't survive because of luck. You endured because of design. Heaven built you for this, and now you feel it. That pulse in your spirit, that certainty in your steps, that clarity you thought you'd never find again. It's not a coincidence, it's a collision between who you were and who you now refuse not to be. This is not an upgrade. This is a return to the frequency that birthed your soul, to the identity that has never changed, only been forgotten. But not anymore. You remember now. You remember why you were kept in the dark, so your roots could grow deep, so your flame could grow pure. You remember why they didn't understand you, so you would stop seeking their approval. You remember why it took so long, so you'd never forget what it cost. And now that you remember, you rise different, not arrogant but anchored, not loud but lit, not perfect but positioned. And in this position, everything shifts. The atmosphere, the timing, the people, the doors. They're all responding to what heaven already knew about you, that you don't move with hype, you move with hearing, and you've heard enough now to never again question the call. The call is not coming, it's present, and so are you. But don't think the path ahead is all ease. The weight of clarity is still weight, but this time it's yoked with power. This time you know you're not carrying it alone, because now you see it. The evidence that you were never abandoned. You see the moments that didn't make sense, now wrapped in divine fingerprints. You see the delays, now exposed as divine timing. You see the pain, now transformed into divine preparation. What tried to bury you was actually planting you. And now, you grow. But your growth is not just for beauty, it's for fruit. Fruit others will eat from. Healing others will receive. Freedom others will recognize, because you walked it first. This is your legacy. Not in what you build with your hands, but in what you shift with your spirit. People will never be the same after crossing your path. Not because you demanded it, but because the divine within you changed the air, and you won't need to explain it. Your presence will do the talking. This is why heaven took its time, because what you carry now is not shallow. It is deep, it is weighty, it is sacred, and sacred things are never rushed. You are not late, you are not behind, you are exactly on time, because your timeline is not governed by clocks, but by kingdom rhythm. And in that rhythm, you are moving as heaven designed, with precision, with grace, with fire. So now, what will you do now that you know you are not ordinary? Now that you've seen too much to pretend? Now that the veil is gone and the vision is clear? What do? You live, fully, freely, fearlessly. Because you have nothing left to prove, only something left to give. And that something is the light you almost lost, but didn't. The light you protected in silence. The flame you sheltered through storms. The power you carried even when your knees buckled. That is the gift. That is the offering. That is the evidence. You are not here to convince. You are here to confirm. Confirm that God still speaks. That alignment still matters. That purpose still finds people in broken places. You are the proof. Not of perfection, but of presence. And that presence speaks louder than your past, because you are no longer the version of you that doubted, that begged, that broke in hidden places. You are now the one who builds, who restores, who reclaims. You don't need revenge. You carry resurrection, and what you carry, the world is about to witness. So here is what heaven says now. Do not shrink. Do not apologize for your shine. Do not dull the voice that God Himself called forward. You've been quiet long enough. Now your words carry weight. Now your presence carries permission. Now your obedience carries authority. And now your steps carry divine consequence. You are not walking for applause. You are walking for alignment. And because you are aligned, everything is responding. Watch how things fall into place. Watch how doors swing open without knocking. Watch how favor finds you without striving. This is not magic. This is movement. Heaven's movement through you, around you, for you. Because you finally said yes, the real yes, the one that cost something. The one that wasn't just emotional, but eternal. This is why you've been fought. This is why the enemy tried to confuse you, because even darkness saw what you were about to become. But it's too late now. You're not going back. You're not silencing yourself. You're not shrinking into old patterns. You are reborn, and no one, not even you, can undo what has been unlocked. So go. Go where others hesitated. Go where fear tried to stop you. Go where heaven has already cleared the way, and as you go, know this: you are covered. You are backed. You are sent. Not by men, not by systems, but by God Himself, and what He sends, He secures. You will lack for nothing, because what you carry is more than enough. So take the next step, and the next, and the one after that, with boldness, with joy, with the full understanding that this is not the end. This is the unfolding, the rising, the moment where the light within you meets the call upon you. And the world is not ready, but heaven is. Chosen one. This fire you now carry, it was never meant to fade. It wasn't given to you for a moment. It was forged in you for a movement not of masses, but of momentum. Every step you take now continues what heaven started. Every breath you release carries the frequency of breakthrough. You are not finished. You are ignited. You were not called to be a spark that flickers. You were called to be a flame that spreads, not recklessly, but righteously. There is still more within you, more rooms to enter, more atmospheres to shift, more souls to awaken with your presence alone. This is not the closing of your assignment. This is the commissioning, and what you do from here will echo in places your name will never be spoken, but your spirit will still be felt. Do not think the fire was only for your benefit. It was placed in you to set others free. The ones still hiding, still doubting, still waiting for permission to become. You are their sign. You are the living letter heaven wrote in silence. And now the message is out. There is no turning back. Not for you. Not for them. You carry too much glory now to go small again. And glory doesn't whisper, it moves through doors, through seasons, through lives, because glory doesn't need a name. It is the name. So walk on, chosen one. Walk with the weight of destiny on your shoulders, not as a burden, but as a banner. You are not just alive, you are activated. The earth groans for those like you, those who have remembered, who have surrendered, who have become. And now all that remains is one thing: live it, not as a performance, but as a pulse, as the divine rhythm moving through human form. You are not finished, you are just beginning.